In this session, we explore the fear of redemption, a core paradox of human suffering drawn from A Course in Miracles, Chapter 13. We will examine why the mind resists healing, how guilt sustains the ego, and how a shift in perception can restore a sense of shared, guiltless identity. Consciously, we say we want peace, love, and unity. Yet beneath the surface, guilt, fear, and condemnation anchor us to conflict. A Course in Miracles suggests the ego actually fears redemption because it equates salvation with its own end. We will unpack this hidden resistance to inner peace. Here we see the architecture of separation. To escape its own self-condemnation, the mind splits and projects guilt outward. By judging others, it imagines it can avoid judgment itself. This projection mechanism builds a world of guilt, where every attack is an attempt to deny our own responsibility. Guilt operates as a closed loop. First we condemn, then attack, then feel guilt, then fear punishment, driving us back to further condemnation. The ego's survival depends on keeping this circuit active. Understanding this cycle is essential if we are to interrupt it and choose a different response. Redemption invites us into shared identity, innocence, and oneness. The ego experiences this as a threat, the loss of a special, separate self, and the terror of isolation or annihilation. Our task is to recognize that what seems like death to the ego is actually the end of loneliness, not of life. The Course describes an insane request, the mind's demand for pain, separation, and specialness. God does not grant this. Instead, he plants a sane answer within the mind, a built-in correction that refuses real harm. Healing comes not through punishment, but through awakening this inner answer. We serve one of two masters. The ego's function is destruction, teaching that our only inheritance is dust. The spirit's function is healing and creation, extending peace and restoring the fragmented sonship. Our daily decisions reveal which teacher we follow and which outcome we reinforce. The ego weaponizes time by linking past guilt to future fear. It insists that old sins must be paid for later, thereby erasing the present, the only point where change is possible. Guilt becomes a mental bridge that keeps both past and future alive, ensuring the ego's continuity and our distress. The holy instant collapses this false continuity. In a miracle, the mind releases past guilt and future punishment, entering a continuous present where guilt cannot exist. By allowing this shift, we experience time not as a prison, but as a teaching device that can be repurposed for healing. To evaluate our own insanity, we must step outside the ego's frame of reference. The Course calls this the reference point beyond delusion, God's answer within us. From this vantage, we can see ego patterns as meaningless and choose again. Our work is to seek and trust this inner reference point. This slide contrasts two thought systems. The ego's paradigm is driven by fear and guilt, uses time to preserve the past, sees others as separate, and aims at destruction. The spirit's paradigm rests on peace and love, uses the present to undo illusions, sees shared identity, and extends joyful creation. Accepting the atonement means embracing our inherent guiltlessness. Practically, this involves 3 steps. Relinquish condemnation of others. Accept that the past is undone, and recognize that creation is eternal, making death unnecessary. In doing so, we dismantle the ego's entire guilt framework. A true shift in perception moves us from isolated parts to a shared reality. The fear of redemption fades as we see there is no separate self to protect. Forgiveness becomes the recognition that our identity was never divided. What the ego calls death is simply awakening from the dream of isolation. We close with this assurance from A Course in Miracles. Whoever hears God's answer will relinquish insanity. His answer is the reference point beyond delusions. Our responsibility is to seek this inner place, confident that love is already within us and will reliably guide us back to sanity.